NFL players are reacting in huge numbers to a growing crisis inside the New York Giants organization. Locker room tension boiled over after Abdul Carter publicly called out Jackson Dart over his political stance outside football. The incident unfolded on a Friday at a Donald Trump rally at Rockland Community College in Suffern, New York, when Jackson Dart appeared on stage and introduced Trump in front of supporters, creating an immediate buzz among football fans and political observers alike. Dart, the Giants' second-year starter, introduced President Donald Trump at a pep rally at Rockland Community College in Suffern, New York, an event for New York Rep. Mike Lawler, about 35 miles northwest of New York City. It was the kind of move that might have gone unnoticed for a quarterback on almost any other team in the NFL. But for a franchise already under the microscope after one of the worst stretches in recent league history, it became a match dropped into a room full of fumes. Dart stepped to the microphone and addressed the crowd. "Look, Big Blue Nation, it's a pleasure to be here." He led the crowd in a chant, called it an honor to be present, and then did the thing that sent the entire football world spinning. He formally introduced the 45th and 47th President of the United States. The video went viral before he had even left the stage. During the event, Donald Trump had plenty of praise for the Giants quarterback, calling Jackson Dart a future Hall of Famer, and complimenting both his athletic ability and appearance during the speech. But what Trump said was almost secondary. What the rest of the NFL said in response, and what one of Dart's own teammates said, is what made this a genuine crisis. After a video surfaced online showing Jackson Dart introducing Donald Trump, Abdul Carter responded directly on social media with a message that instantly went viral. "Thought this sheet was AI. What we doing, man?" Carter wrote in reaction to the clip. That single line, posted in the early hours of Saturday morning, exploded across every platform the internet has to offer. Screenshots flooded timelines. Sports radio lit up. Podcasts went live early just to cover it. The Abdul Carter response spread rapidly online, with NFL fans debating whether the Giants linebacker was joking, criticizing Dart, or simply surprised by the appearance. And the exchange immediately became one of the top NFL discussion topics of the day, especially because both players are viewed as key pieces of the Giants' future. Abdul Carter was not the only NFL player reacting to the situation. Cam Jordan of the New Orleans Saints also commented online, writing sounds about Ole Miss, referencing Jackson Dart's college football background at the University of Mississippi. The Cam Jordan response added even more fuel to the growing conversation surrounding the rally appearance. The podcast Bussin' with the Boys, hosted by former NFL veterans Will Compton and Taylor Lewin, responded to Carter from their official X account, sharing, "Checking in on the New York Giants this offseason," a line dripping with the kind of amused disbelief that told you everything about how the rest of the league was watching this unfold. Wide receiver Darius Slayton also went to social media to refute a false claim alleging that Dart had made a racist comment in the past, while offensive lineman Jermaine Illuminor responded to a Boston area reporter who suggested Dart's political views had begun to create a divide in the locker room. "Locker room is fine," Illuminor wrote, adding focus on New England, and then separately told a Giants beat writer to relax, after the writer responded to Carter's initial post with an awkward emoji. What started as a political rally appearance quickly turned into one of the most talked about NFL social media moments of the weekend, as Abdul Carter, Jackson Dart, Donald Trump, and the New York Giants all began trending across social platforms. And the fact that it all broke loose just days into the Giants' OTA window, with the cameras and reporters scheduled to show up, made it impossible to contain. Because both Abdul Carter and Jackson Dart are considered foundational pieces for the Giants. Fans are now closely watching whether the situation develops further. And with the team in off-season activities, reporters are expected to ask Abdul Carter, Jackson Dart, and Giants coaches about the situation once players return to the facility. To understand why a single social media post from a linebacker sent the NFL into a frenzy, you have to understand what New York has been living through. Because this was not a stable franchise where one off-season controversy was an anomaly. This was a team that spent the better part of 3 years collapsing in spectacular fashion. A team so accustomed to things going wrong that when something else goes sideways, the world stops to watch. The Giants finished the 2025 season with a 4-13-0 record, landing 4th in the NFC East, scoring 381 points while allowing 439. Those numbers alone tell a story of a team that could score, but could not hold a lead, could not win close games, and could not get out of its own way when the moment arrived. The 2025 season was plagued by numerous injuries to key players and poor defensive play throughout the year that contributed to numerous blown leads and close losses. Of the Giants' 13 losses, 7 were determined by a single possession, and in 5 of the remaining losses, they blew a double-digit lead. Had they won those games, they would have finished at 11-6. Think about that. The same roster that ended the year 4-13 was one collapse away from being a borderline playoff contender. That is the particular kind of misery that drives fan bases and locker rooms to their absolute breaking point. The season had its signature moment of collapse in Denver, where the Giants were up 18 points with 6 minutes to go and lost. Previously, teams that had been up 18 points with 6 minutes left had been won 602-0. That is not a bad loss. That is a historically unprecedented surrender. That is the kind of result that gets a coach fired, gets a general manager's seat scorched, and gives an entire organization a reputation it cannot shake. The Giants memorably blew a 26-8 lead in the fourth quarter against the Denver Broncos in Week 7, eventually losing that matchup 33-32. And that was just one game. The move to fire Daboll came after the Giants blew a 20-10 fourth quarter lead in a loss to the Chicago Bears. Marking the 4th time that season, the Giants lost a game in which they led by at least 10 points on the road, going winless in all 4. It was the 2nd time that season the Giants blew at least a 10-point lead with under 4 minutes remaining, making them just the 2nd team in the Super Bowl era to do that. The weight of that statistic is difficult to overstate. This was not bad luck. This was a pattern so consistent it became its own identity. Daboll had entered the 2025 season on the hot seat. After surprisingly staving off termination at the end of the 2024 campaign, a season that saw the Giants cut former first-rounder Daniel Jones before limping to a 3-14 finish. And yet ownership kept the band together. Daboll in the dugout, general manager Joe Schoen still at the controls, and handed them a loaded 2025 draft to see if they could change the story. Schoen executed a bit of a comeback attempt in 2025, nailing 2 draft picks, Dart and Scatterbo, while also selecting the consensus top player in the draft in Abdul Carter with the 3rd overall pick. His selections of LSU star Malik Nabers, safety Tyler Nubin, and tight end Theo Johnson in 2024 had also stocked the Giants with legitimate talent, reviving his reputation as a personnel chief. For the first time in years, New York had a truly talented young core. Dart, Nabers, and Abdul Carter are all in their early 20s. All-Pro left tackle Andrew Thomas was 26. Defensive end Brian Burns, who co-led the NFL in sacks, was 27. And Kayvon Thibodeau, the former 5th pick in the draft, was 24. The talent was there. The vision was there. But the results kept turning to dust. And when the season ended at 4-13 with a fired head coach, and a locker room full of young players who had just experienced the kind of year that hardens people, the stage was set for something to give. The firing of Brian Daboll did not happen suddenly. It was a slow-motion car crash the entire NFL had been watching for the better part of 2 years. And when the final blow came, it came in the most Giants way imaginable. A blown fourth-quarter lead on national television. The Giants fired head coach Brian Daboll following a 2-8 start to their 2025 season, as reported by ESPN's Adam Schefter, with Sports Illustrated's Connor Orr confirming the firing. It was week 10 of the season. The calendar had not even turned to November when New York decided it had seen enough. Daboll was out with an 11-33 record over the past 3 seasons. That is not a record you survive anywhere in professional sports, let alone in one of the largest media markets in the world, with one of the most storied franchises in league history. Daboll was in the middle of his 4th season in New York and ended with a 20-41 record over his entire tenure, earning 1 playoff win and the Coach of the Year award in 2022. That playoff season now feels like ancient history, a brief, shining moment before everything unraveled. In that final loss against the Bears, promising rookie quarterback Jackson Dart left the game in the 4th quarter after being evaluated for a concussion, an injury that occurred on a designed run after Dart had taken hard hits on scrambles earlier in the game, leading some to criticize Daboll and the coaching staff for putting their franchise quarterback in harm's way. That criticism landed especially hard given what reporters were already writing about Dart's physical condition. The Athletic's Dan Duggan had reported that Dart looks like he went 15 rounds with Mike Tyson in his prime after every game, noting that the rookie quarterback would slowly shuffle around the locker room after games, sometimes not making it to his press conference until nearly an hour after the final whistle. That was the picture of a 22-year-old quarterback absorbing far too much punishment, and a coaching staff that either did not notice or did not care enough to change it. In a joint statement, Giants President John Mara and Chairman Steve Tisch said, "We spoke this morning about the direction of our franchise on the field, and we have decided that, at this time, it is in our best interest to make a change at the head coaching position. The past few seasons have been nothing short of disappointing, and we have not met our expectations for this franchise." Several players told ESPN after Sunday's loss that someone had to be accountable, and that they understood it was likely the head coach, as Daboll couldn't keep pointing fingers elsewhere after discarding Daniel Jones the year before, and constantly reshaping his staff. The Giants rightfully fired head coach Brian Daboll, and interim head coach Mike Kafka then fired defensive coordinator Shane Bowen. The coaching upheaval that followed Daboll's exit did not stop with Daboll. It cut all the way down through the staff, stripping away the defensive architecture that had allowed 75 points in 4 fourth quarters alone. The coach under the most pressure following Daboll's exit was defensive coordinator Shane Bowen, whose unit had struggled badly during the season, especially in fourth quarters, when the Giants allowed 75 points across 4 games. When Kafka took over as interim, the handwriting was already on the wall for Bowen too. Then, after the season ended and the search began, the Giants did something that genuinely surprised people. On January 17, 2026, the Giants hired John Harbaugh as the new head coach, a Super Bowl winner, a proven architect of winning cultures, a man who turned the Baltimore Ravens into a perennial powerhouse. This was not a safe, middling hire. This was a statement. This is where the story becomes something more than a crisis, because underneath the chaos, the blown leads, the fired coaches, and the viral social media firestorm, there is a young roster in New York that has the entire league paying attention, for reasons that go far beyond the headlines. Carter and Dart entered the league together after the 2025 NFL Draft, where Abdul Carter was selected 3rd overall by the Giants, while Jackson Dart was taken later in the first round at number 25 overall. 2 first-round picks in the same draft, selected to anchor the defense and the offense respectively. They were supposed to be the cornerstones of the rebuild, and in many ways, they already are, which is exactly why the locker room drama around them carries so much weight. Rookie quarterback Jackson Dart made his first career start and scored his first NFL touchdown on a 15-yard run to cap off the Giants' opening drive, and later recorded his first passing touchdown, a 3-yard shovel pass to tight end Theo Johnson. The kid could play, that much was never in question. What was in question was whether the organization around him was capable of protecting and developing him. Jackson Dart ran for a 20-yard touchdown in Week 6, becoming just the 2nd quarterback in NFL history, along with Patrick Mahomes, to lead his team to an opening drive touchdown in each of his first 3 career starts. His name alongside Mahomes in any historical sentence is the kind of thing that catches the league's attention. And it did. Dart showed plenty of promise, with 7 rushing touchdowns and 10 passing touchdowns in his 7 starts during the 2025 season, while throwing only 3 interceptions. He also set a record for the most consecutive games with a rushing touchdown for a quarterback, with his 2 rushing scores marking the 5th straight game that Dart had rushed for a touchdown. Though New York went 2-5 in those games, but Dart was not the only piece. The Giants have the most promising future of any team near the top of the draft board, with Jackson Dart as the quarterback of the future, an elite defensive line, solid pieces in the secondary, and a tandem of young running backs in Cam Skattebo and Tyrone Tracy who can wreak havoc, alongside top-flight pass catcher Malik Nabers. Nabers is progressing from ACL and meniscus tears to his right knee suffered in Week 4 of last season, and GM Joe Schoen said in late March that he's hopeful the star wide receiver will be ready for Week 1 of the 2026 campaign. Nabers, when healthy, is one of the most electric receivers in the game. Losing him in Week 4 of the 2025 season was a blow the team never truly absorbed. Running back Cam Skattebo is present for the start of voluntary workouts, with new Giants coach John Harbaugh saying Skattebo is ahead of Nabers in his rehab, and that it is possible Skattebo will resume handling on-field activities this spring. Skattebo had suffered a dislocated right ankle in late October and appears to be on track for the start of OTAs. Dexter Lawrence requested a trade and chose not to participate in the start of the Giants' voluntary offseason activities, Lawrence had broken out with a career-high 9 sacks in 2024. But despite playing in all 17 regular season games in 2025, he finished with just a half sack, by far the lowest mark of his career. This would also be the final season for the New York Giants with All-Pro defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence, as he was traded to the Cincinnati Bengals in exchange for the 10th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. It is a roster that, even through all the wreckage, is genuinely stacked with talent. And that is what makes the Dart Carter drama so combustible, because these are not two players on a throwaway team. These are the two players the Giants have built their entire future around. Giants quarterback Jackson Dart addressed teammates in a team meeting to discuss his introduction of President Donald Trump at an event the previous week in New York. According to sources that spoke to ESPN and NFL Network, the organization could not let this simmer. Not with OTAs underway, not with reporters already circling, not with the entire league watching. According to NFL media, other team leaders, including edge rushers Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau, and backup quarterback Jameis Winston, were also heard from at the meeting, with the Giants moving forward and working to put it behind them, according to ESPN. Among the topics discussed at the meeting was the need to keep things internal and not air frustrations publicly. That last point is the most telling. The Giants were not just managing a political controversy, they were establishing a locker room culture. And that conversation, in many ways, is the most important thing John Harbaugh has done since arriving. Later in the evening of the initial controversy, Carter finally attempted to clear the air, letting the NFL world know he and Dart had moved past the situation. "Me, JD6 are good. We spoke earlier as men," Carter wrote, with the first-round pick noting they'd worked through it privately. That statement from Carter took the temperature down considerably, but it did not erase the underlying question that every Giants observer was now asking out loud. What kind of team is John Harbaugh actually walking into? John Harbaugh's first major impression on the Giants isn't about who's playing where. It's about how they're moving. The team had already kicked off OTAs 2 days earlier with full team 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 work. And the structure of those sessions is starting to reveal the bigger picture. Harbaugh is a man who believes that culture is established before the first snap ever happens. He built that in Baltimore over more than a decade. Now he gets to see if he can import it to East Rutherford. Former NFL Network host Lindsey Rhodes reported that the Giants have had more offensive plays while leading this year than the 8-5 Detroit Lions. They also have more than the 10-2 Denver Broncos and the 8-4 Buffalo Bills. All told, the Giants rank 11th in the league in the number of offensive plays they have had while leading. That is a staggering stat that paints a picture of a New York team that simply needs better coaching, to stop blowing massive leads and hold on when they're ahead. The talent was never the problem. The infrastructure was. Nothing hurt the Giants worse in 2025 than pre-snap penalties. The Giants averaged 318 pre-snap penalties per game, the worst mark in the NFL, and well above the league average of 236 per game. That is not a talent problem. That is a discipline problem. And discipline is the one thing Harbaugh has spent his entire coaching career enforcing with an iron fist. On January 25, the Giants hired former Tennessee Titans defensive coordinator Dennard Wilson as their new defensive coordinator. Wilson had previously served under Harbaugh as the Ravens defensive backs coach in 2023. And on February 3, the Giants hired former Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator Matt Nagy as their new offensive coordinator. Harbaugh is not just bringing himself. He is bringing the entire system, the vocabulary, the schemes, the accountability structures that turned the Ravens into a dynasty-adjacent program. For over a decade, the Giants seek to improve upon their 2025 record of 4-13, make the playoffs after a 3-year absence, and end their 14-year NFC East title drought, currently the longest active drought in the NFC. 14 years, that is not a slump. That is a generation of Giants football without a division title. Harbaugh knows what he is walking into. He accepted the job anyway. The locker room firestorm around Dart and Carter, as dramatic as it was, resolved itself within 48 hours. Two young stars, both in their second NFL year, both dealing with the weight of a franchise's expectations, talked it out like professionals and told the world they were good. Whether you believe that is your call to make, but the bigger issue, the one that Harbaugh is now in charge of answering, is whether the Giants can finally translate all that talent into something that actually wins football games. Entering their second NFL seasons, Dart and Carter will aim to lead their respective units, while continuing to build chemistry both on and off the field, and the Giants will be a team worth monitoring as they look to return to playoff contention. Under new head coach John Harbaugh, Kafka was unlikely to be the long-term solution for the Giants, and the Mara family needed to knock their head coach hiring out of the park this offseason, because the team clearly has the talent to compete with the best teams in the NFL, but they have not had the infrastructure to pull out wins. Whether Harbaugh is that answer, we are about to find out. The rest of the NFL is watching, and so is everybody who clicked on a video of their quarterback introducing the President of the United States. The crisis is not really about a rally. It never was. It is about whether a franchise that has been imploding in slow motion for years can finally find the stability to match its talent, and whether two 22-year-old foundational pieces can hold together long enough to let that happen.